tell me your name and how old you were when you were diagnosed with ADHD?
Yes, so my name is Anna Maria. I was first, I would say, diagnosed with ADHD in when I was 15. But well, that's when the journey started, really. I had depression and anxiety, and I tried to commit suicide. It wasn't, it was more an idea than an attempt. I think at the time I was probably trying to get some attention and a lot of emotion there. So I was flagged up by the mental health team, and then I started seeing a psychiatrist, and then they said I had a depression and anxiety, and then they thought I had bipolar disorder. And that ended up to be wrong because I saw another psychiatrist, and then he said, no, I think you have ADHD, but we have to send you to an ADHD specialist because I'm not sure, because of the whole, the two psychiatrists were like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Usually bipolar and ADHD are quite, they overlap. So it's not a surprise that they didn't really know, especially with my emotional problems. And then I moved house, and the referral must have gotten, lost somewhere. And I didn't really follow it up until I started struggling quite a bit at university. And then I finally got on to the waiting list, which was about 3 years or something. And I finally saw someone at age 20. And then it was confirmed that, I had ADHD, and I started receiving support.
So from the start that, you thought that something wasn't right, to actually getting a diagnosis, would you say there was at least 5 years in there?
Yeah, definitely.
Can you also tell me what you do at the moment and what your subject is that you are studying?
Yes. So I am doing a PhD at King's College London, and I'm doing it in girls and women with ADHD. So females with ADHD, and we know that we are more likely to be diagnosed much later on. There is not that much awareness around ADHD in women. And so this leads to a lot of problems, because if we were diagnosed earlier on, we could get all the support that we needed, and get the courage to kind of accept ourselves and move forward and get the help, and be kind of have a chance as everyone else. And so what I'm trying to do basically is, first of all, try to find out, why is it that females are being missed so much? Why are we not flagging up these girls that need attention and support? And why is it that we are only looking at males, at men, and at boys? So I'm doing a qualitative study at the moment, trying to just look at the life experiences of these girls. And then we will develop a new scale. So we will develop a new, let's say, diagnostic scale to pick up girls with ADHD. So we will recruit young girls in primary school who have been flagged up as having emotional problems or self-regulation problems, and we'll give them this scale and see if it picks up these symptoms, ADHD symptoms. So it will be a scale that is specific to females with ADHD, because diagnostic scales at the moment are very, very much male oriented. So we know that girls with ADHD, they're not that hyperactive, whereas the diagnostic criteria, the DSM, is very hyperactivity focused. And so this could be a reason why we're missing all these girls. They maybe we need to add in a more emotional scale. Maybe we need to add in mental hyperactivity and not just physical hyperactivity. So all these things that I'm looking forward to add and to make this new scale that will pick them up. And then alongside the scale, we will do a digital technique. So I'm working with a private company called QBTech, and they do clinical tests for ADHD. And so it's not going to be just maybe subjective scales that are based on self-report, but this will be a digital technique that is done on a computer, and it will measure things like hyperactivity and even micro events. So micro hyperactivity, like girls are more likely to maybe fidget with their hands and not move like boys are, like that. So these little tiny things that girls are more likely to do is going to pick them up. And cognitive tests and all these different things that are hopefully going to be more objective and be able to pick up girls that have problems. So basically, yeah, I'm trying to just change the way that the girls are being diagnosed.
Yeah, I'm really excited about your research because when I was looking into the science and, the current practice in assessment for ADHD, I also came across, the work of Professor Susan Young, who she's done a lot of work in this field for over 20 years or so. And she recently brought together a group of experts, to like cross-examine how people are doing things now in terms of identifying and treating girls, from the age of 6 and women. What you say about developing a rating scale that is more female normative, which, is currently, you're right, a lot of the criteria for assessment is based on how hyper you are. But there are also the dreamers, the people who fall asleep at the back of the class, which I, was guilty of as well when I was a teenager. So those are the people that will slip through the cracks and fly under the radar. And so your research would look at all that and try and develop a new, more objective assessment, for females that to cover all range of the ADHD that are present in females. And so your research, you are looking at girls that are quite young. What are the age range for your research?
So my PhD is over a 4-year period. So I'm going to be doing several studies that look at loads of different age groups. But the qualitative one now is I will be interviewing women from 16 to 30. And this is just because I want to get an kind of like an overall experience. And so it could be also that the girls are much younger, but then I would need to talk to their parents because of ethical reasons. I'm not allowed to speak to minors. It would just, I am, but I didn't get ethics for it. So 16 to 30 at the moment. And then later on, when we do the scales and stuff, I'll be looking at younger girls that don't have a diagnosis of ADHD yet.
Right. So I would say because of the cutoff point for your research, like at the moment, there are more women post the age of 30 coming forward, to obtain a diagnosis because the structure that they have put in place has not worked at this point. So I think the major challenge is to figure out what is a good rating scale for women, who are diagnosed later in life. So that is like a whole new other research, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's I think it's a different research, and hopefully if I continue, which I plan to continue in this ADHD research, I plan to look at loads of different age groups. But at the moment, because we are focusing on early identification of ADHD, young females are below the age of about 12 are less likely to be picked up by the childhood scale. And then as females get older, as we get older, that disparity between male and female diagnosis, it actually levels out. So this is what we don't know. Is it that young girls are just being missed when they're younger, and then when they get older they are being picked up more? Does that make sense? So let's say at around age 7, male's diagnosis is way up here, and then female diagnosis is way down here. And then as they get older and older, it starts to level out.
Right.
So before we thought that there was that boys are more likely to have ADHD, but now maybe it's just that girls are less likely to be picked up at a younger age. But as the demands increase, then we are more likely to pick them up because they are struggling more, right?
Absolutely.
So we are trying to get those young girls that are missed at an early age.
I get that completely, because it is not because that there are, fewer females with ADHD, fewer children, like girls with ADHD, but that they are finding a way to manage, to not attract too much attention to themselves, and that
Exactly.
their ADHD behaviors only starts to worsen when they are put in a transition in their life where their former systems have sort of not worked for them in this new, environment. And so, like, I read that a lot of that happens when a child, goes to secondary school, or if they leave for university and have to leave home, and suddenly find that no one is holding them accountable for
Yeah,
things that they
exactly.
need to do.
And then even motherhood as well, the fact that we have to deal with an extra bit of responsibility and having children, and taking care of an entire household. For some female, they don't go through education, so they might not have that demand, but then they reach motherhood and they realize that their whole world is falling apart and they don't know why. So it's relevant for all ages.
I have to agree with you, because I put up both my hands. I'm totally guilty of that. Since the birth of my second child, and trying to work around him and the other child has been complete, chaos in my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for flagging that up. So I wanted to ask you, what is it like inside the minds of an ADHD? You're obviously really intelligent. You're clever. Like, when I speak to you, I feel like, wow, you really know your stuff and you're so articulate. But what is really going on in your mind? How is your brain behaving right now?
Oh God. I think not having that support from such a young age has really helped me deal with things myself, because I was always, the most important thing for me was my education from such a young age. My parents were never like pressuring me into doing anything. They were very, very supportive of everything, but I pressured myself. I had to get my education done. So I was very much the type of person with like her book in her face and just like getting things done, because it wasn't easy for me at all. I really, really struggled to get to where I am. And I think it's like, if you asked anyone at my school, like teachers, they would be like, I'm an A-star student, everything is fine. But in my head, there were so many things going on and so many things I had to rearrange to make myself look normal, not to be flagged up as someone who is struggling, because I wanted to get into a good university and I wanted to make a difference. And so I thought that trying to constrain myself and restrict myself into this kind of perfect person that maybe my family thought I was and my teachers thought I was, it created a lot of clash in my head of, this is not who you are, this is not who you're made to be, So you're not, I always told myself I'm not made to be an academic, because my mind just does not work like that. But I wanted to be. I wanted to be an academic. And so there was a lot of stuff going in my head, trying to fit into the social world, trying to act like I am like everyone else. I think now I'm a bit better with managing it. There's a lot of stuff. It's like I have a wall, I've put a wall in my head, in the middle of my head, and there's loads of things at the back. And I have this like semi-permeable wall that I'm like, okay, only small things can go to the front, only little things at a time. Whereas I know there's chaos in the back of my head, but I'm just like choosing to ignore it and like slowly tap into it. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes there's, that wall is gone and there's just loads of chaos everywhere. Sandra Cooge, she's done a lot of research on women ADHD, and she talks about this concept of mental hyperactivity that happens in women. And we may not be hyperactive externally, but mentally there is so much more going on in our heads, and there is thousands of things going on in our heads. And I think while it can be amazing, to lead us maybe into businesswomen and entrepreneurs and researchers, it's exhausting. It is exhausting. And this is why we have so much problem with sleep. I sit down in my bed, and there's like, I don't know if you have this like image of some in movies, they show these things where people see loads of like physics stuff going on, and it's
Yeah, like all the
like
formulas
maths.
running in front of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
brain, like crossing.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. I have loads of things at the same time. And I was talking to my partner the other day, and I was saying like, oh, I can't. So he's doing meditation, and he said, why don't you try meditation? I have tried meditation, but I think about literally three things, four things at the same time. And he said, how is that possible? You can't think about two things at the same time. You think about one thing and then you switch to the other thing and the other thing. I was like, no, I think about the same, like three different topics at the exact same time. And it's literally like that all the time. I pay attention to five different things at the exact same time, and then I switch, so it's, yeah, it is literally like a crazy, chaotic, hyperactive mind.
And how does this manifest for you? Because you have obviously, in order to put that system in check for yourself, to manage, the tornado of thoughts in your mind, you might been through some experience where you felt like if you didn't manage it, something bad would have happened.
Yes, I think as a young girl, I was always full of negative emotion, full of anger, and I didn't really know how to regulate it. I think that's how I really externalized it. And then I realized, well, I loved sport from as when I was young. I had an older brother, and he was also has ADHD, very, very outgoing and sporty, used to climb trees. So I would just follow him because I was 2 years younger, and he would just pull me along everywhere. And then I stopped doing sport around my teenage years, and that's when it all went to like the bin, basically, because I couldn't manage my emotion. I was very, very, very angry. I was very aggressive, and I didn't know how to manage it at all. I would paint a lot. I would draw a lot. I would listen to very, very loud music. I think that was my biggest thing. I couldn't sleep without music because I felt like the music would take over, and I wouldn't be able to hear my thoughts. So I would have to have loud music in my headphones while I was sleeping so that I didn't focus on my thoughts. I still do that now when I study. I have to have music in the background so that I can focus on something. Um, so yeah, I think now I accept it a lot more. So I don't try to block it out as much, and I let it guide me. And being in research, I think that's the amazing thing, because I have so many ideas and my research team sometimes can't keep up with me. But it's amazing that I have a supervisor that also has ADHD, and we vibe together a lot. You know, he has so many ideas and I have so many ideas, but we have such an amazing connection. And that's why I think I can do this, because I have support from another fellow ADHDer. You know, I think without him, I don't know if I would be able to do it.
That's so lucky as well for you to have found someone like that, you know, who could like help you and encourage you, and also maybe like spur on your a bit more out there ideas, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely.
when you live with, you know, ADHD, are you on medication right now?
Yes, I am. Yes, from
Right.
time to time, because it affects my sleep a lot. So
Oh,
I try to take a few breaks from it sometimes.
okay. And do you find that life before starting medication was a struggle, and, you know, after your diagnosis and after doing something about it, it helped?
Yes, I think medication for me was life changing. But it wasn't just medication. I think I did get a lot of support as well. I got mentoring and study skill support in my second year of university. It was like I found a completely different person, of like a different version of myself that I didn't know was possible. My verbal skills improved massively. I used to kind of like stutter a lot because my brain was so fast and my mouth couldn't keep up with me. So whenever I would try to explain something, it would just come out jumbled and it wouldn't make sense. And now I feel like my thoughts are a lot more organized, and I'm able to articulate myself in a much better way. My writing improved. Time management for me is a massive thing. I think that's the biggest thing that is kind of like a disadvantage for me. I don't understand the perception of time, but yeah, medication has really helped. It's just the side effects are not great. So I think if it wasn't for the side effects, I would take them every day.
So apart from medication, you know, you were saying that sometimes you don't take it, and, you know, if you don't, then what do you do to help yourself? Is it like by doing sports, or like meditation, which you have mentioned? So what are the other strategies that you use to help you?
Um, so try I try to write a lot of things down. Um, Whenever things come to my head, it's like I have loads of ideas that I could probably write a book about, but if I didn't forget it in the next second, you know, so I try to write loads of things down as they come to me. I do yoga. I find yoga really helps me. Meditation is difficult because you have to sit with your own thoughts and try to let go of them. And I have done it before. I do find it very difficult, but I feel like yoga, because I'm doing something at the same time, so it's more mindful yoga. So I'm focusing on my breathing and my movements, so it's not just doing the poses. You know, it's very very mindful. So I think that really helps. And yeah, the gym is my safe haven, really. So now that we don't have that, it drove me a bit insane at the start, because I am quite hyperactive as well. But for me, it's like mostly bursts. Every hour or so, I have like a 15-minute burst of like craziness, and I feel like I need to like come out of my body. Um, so yeah, the gym definitely. I
And dancing,
think,
maybe?
yeah,
Dance.
yes, dancing. I love dancing. I used to love dancing so much, so much. And yeah, now who knows when we're gonna dance again? I guess next Saturday, this
But
Saturday,
this Saturday, actually.
this Saturday. Yes.
Oh, man. So yeah, so I gather that, you know, you are someone who, like, obviously from a young age has, you know, come across some obstacles, you know, and have trouble regulating your emotions. and you have over the years found ways to manage your mind and help you achieve certain things that you are proud of. Can you tell me any examples of when you have managed to hone your ADHD's positive personality traits in order to help you lead to a successful venture?
Mm. Um, I think currently I'm living it. I think through my PhD in ADHD in girls and women, I think I can really get to the root of the issue, because I I am not only starting to be an expert in the literature, but I'm an expert in through experience. And I think, um, like I said before, letting my thoughts guide me rather than restricting it, I think has really helped, because I'm using my experience and these little things that other researchers without ADHD might not know. Um, I'm using it to create a PhD that is, or a diagnostic tool that is very, very specific to girls with ADHD. And I think that I truly believe that a researcher without ADHD couldn't do that, because they, no matter how many papers you read, there are these certain things that are not in the literature, and that's why girls are not being picked up, you know. And I think that it's very, very important for young girls to feel empowered to do something for themselves, you know. And I think i've I've really taken it on as like a crown that I wear, rather than something to feel ashamed of, and you know, to be put down. I think it helps me be very, very creative. I I take on a lot of things. I have loads of little side projects that I might not finish immediately, but I'll get to them eventually. Um, I think also I'm a great leader, and I think that's really, really helped me. Ever since I was young, I would my mum would put me in ballet, and she didn't know that that was terrible, because I loved boxing, and I started doing boxing, so it was very, very different. But and I would always be the one gathering the little children and putting them down. And you know, even as I grew older, I was always very I wanted to lead people. I wanted to encourage people. I wanted to be the speaker of something, you know. So I think that's really helped. I mean, obviously I didn't realize it growing up, but now when I look back, it's it's very clear that, you know, I was made to be like that for a reason. And I think it's made me have a very, very strong character. And I I love it now. You know, it's made me who I am, and it's nobody else is really like me. So, you know, I'm happy. I'm happy with it.
That's amazing, Anna Maria. Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 24.
Oh, just speaking to you, like really give me like this goosebumps because you remind me so much of myself and like a younger, very much younger self, and like I could also see parallels of my daughter, in you. So like we are the generations, of women with ADHD and we don't grow out of it. We just find ways to either cope with it, live with it, and if we're
Mm,
lucky to have a support system as well that can help us, because for you
yeah.
pretty much found your own way, didn't you? And that is
Yeah,
so
definitely.
admirable.
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. I think it's really, really important to give these young girls the opportunity to find their own way, in a way. I think, I mean, while it's very important to give them the support and, you know, the help that they need, I think at the end of the day, they need to learn how to cope themselves, because every single woman has a different way of coping. You know, there are so many tips and things out there for us to help us. But like I was talking to a young girl yesterday who had ADHD, she said the same thing, that she really, really needed to learn how to deal with things herself. Um, she wanted to be independent. She was very tired of being made to feel helpless. And I think it's a very fine line between giving young girls support and then at the same time taking away their independence. What is that saying of, you give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, you give him a wand and you know.
Teach him how to fish, then he can fish for
Yes,
life.
exactly. And that's literally it. We need to teach them to be independent and strong and have, you know, be able to take control of their own life,
Mm,
basically.
that's really
And I just
empowering.
wanted to say, I really admire what you're doing. I think at the same time as the change in the diagnostic tool is very important, because, you know, obviously, girls are not being picked up because of, you know, the current mental health system and many other problems. But I think one of the biggest thing is awareness. And that was made really apparent to me yesterday when I was talking to this young girl, or, you know, young adult more like. She was saying that she was very, very boy typical ADHD. So she was very loud. She made her presence very, very known in the classroom, and she was still not picked up until she was 18 or 17. And so it made me wonder, we have this idea that girls who internalize their ADHD, they are being missed because they are, you know, like you said, the type to look out the window and be very shy. And, you know, I think teachers find it difficult to realize that they need support. Whereas boys who are more destructive and who make, you know, who are very loud and make their presence known, they are more likely to be flagged up as needing support. But why is it that when girls are the same, they still don't get flagged up for needing support? You know, so I think girls who internalize and girls who externalize, they are still not flagged up as needing support. A lot of people still don't think that ADHD is a girl thing. You know, I think it's that awareness thing. And teachers and mental health specialists and everyone need to be aware that ADHD is very much a girl thing as much as it is a boy thing.
I mean, also that there's another thing that I think most people are not aware how common ADHD is. I think it
Mm,
affects 3 to 5% of people. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today. It's been such
no
an
worries.
illuminating conversation.